Nope. I don't know. This is our topical daily live show for those who want it.
Right. Yeah.
See,
not highly produced. Nope. This is raw.
Gary V is holding up a camera to his Instagram that's going to his if Gary V, who has all the resources in the world, don't give a fuck, why should I give a fuck?
Exactly. Yep. Totally agree.
Boom.
Awesome. Okay, I'm gonna retweet this on my end.
All right. So yes, we should just go ahead and well, I know one's got sent out, but let me see if we up at the top. Oh, for whatever reason, that just failed. All right. Well, we're gonna try it again. Oh, we're up against Scott. Oh. So that just failed on me twice. So
what's failing? YouTube or Periscope?
The restream.
Okay.
Just cut out on me. So let me see. And of course it worked just fine.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it worked just fine. All right, retry. Something went wrong. All right.
Because I'm seeing it right now on Periscope and on my Twitter feed, and it looks like it's doing just fine.
Well, see, it just cut out. Damn it. All right. Let me think here. We just had it. And all right. Let's see. But this looks rad. And it's going to the streaming service.
Mm-hmm.
It's just a restream for whatever reason is going to be difficult now. And then this person's like, it's on YouTube.
Okay. Well, if it's up, right? Because it's still streaming on Periscope.
Is it streaming on Periscope now?
Uh-huh.
I'm looking at the destinations.
Yeah, I mean, we got a 10-second delay on Periscope, but it's popping up.
Well, this is showing me that we're on both right now.
Cool. Let's roll with it.
And then let me just go here. And if this says to me that we're on.
Sweet. Let's do it.
Is it showing you on Periscope?
Yep.
All right. Well, we're live.
All right. We're live.
Hey, everybody. Thank you for joining in. It is me hanging out with my good buddy, Tanner. Tanner and I have not seen each other in quite a long time. We have lots to talk about. I'm really excited. And we chatted a little bit earlier about just where we are with COVID-19. And one of the things that you have put out that I was laughing about was, I guess it was a tweet. There was two tweets. One that had been going on about you were seen to be in this perpetual battle of real men don't care how they look.
Yes. my little ironic meme that I've been doing for years.
Yeah, so there's that. So we can dive into that. And then also with that, it is the what we're seeing a lot of everybody seeing this as depressing. All of our worlds and routines have been thrown upside down.
Mm-hmm.
For you, not so much, and we'll get into that, but I know for myself it has. And I know how I'm tackling that. But one of the first things, and both of us agree here, and this is a point of that I really wanted to talk to you of just how important routine is, even the fact of getting dressed and how that one small thing has a large effect on the rest of the day.
Yep.
And so that's what I would like to talk about. First part. Second part, you and I come from very different places when it comes to fashion and style and self-expression, which is incredibly important to be able to communicate your values through behaviors, actions, and your presentation.
Absolutely.
And we come from different places, but yet we meet a lot in the middle there of,
yeah, we overlap a lot.
yes. And I think the conversation of just how you don't have to take your style to get here, and you don't have to take mine to get here, but as long as you get here from any
Right.
direction, I think we're in a good place. And that's
Yep.
what I wanted to end this on.
Cool.
And then maybe we could just do some tips and style and stuff. But to kick this off, I am Johnny from The Art of Charm, and this is my guest.
I'm Tanner from Masculine Style.
All right. So Tanner, we've been chatting about this. How has COVID-19, what's the position that you're in? How has this changed your life at the moment?
Yeah, I'm in a kind of a different position from most people in that we're operating at about 90% normal compared to so much of the rest of the world that everything's been thrown up. And yes, my style coaching business has definitely taken some hits, and there are a lot of guys who had expressed some interest that are waiting for the dust to settle before jumping back on. And so in that regard, as far as the business itself, I'm experiencing a lot of the same hiccups and stoppages that a lot of other people in our space are. But as far as our day-to-day routine, I already have worked from home. I've done it for the last 3 years. I'm a father of 4. My wife stays home full time as a mom. And so this is normal for her. And we've homeschooled our kids the whole time that we've had them. And so it's really like all the things that a lot of parents especially are struggling with, as far as, who's going to put time in with the kids and how are we going to handle schoolwork. We've been doing that. We've already got that relatively well under wraps. Although the fact that it's springtime and my kids can't go out and play with their friends, that's driving them nuts. But really, like I said, for the most part, we're at about 90% normalcy compared to where a lot of people are.
You're in Utah. So what is the weather like there in this moment? You're in Salt Lake, correct?
Yeah. We're just a little bit south of Salt Lake. And so it was a good, like 55 degrees where we are at this time of year. Like it snowed yesterday for about 15 minutes and then it warmed up again after that. And that's how it's going to be for the next like month or so. Is you get 20-30 degree fluctuations within 2 hours and you just kind of plan for it. But we spent, I went for a run this morning. We spent 2 hours out working in the yard as a family and stuff like that. So it's definitely better that this is happening now than if it were happening 3 months ago, when you also were just trapped inside and you can't go out for a walk. You can't go out and get a little bit of vitamin D and a little bit of outside exercise and all that kind of stuff.
All right. For myself, for the guys who have been paying attention or who haven't, I'm in Hollywood. In fact, I'm on Hollywood Boulevard.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, I think we went to that ice cream shop. I live upstairs from Man Camp, if you remember that.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. So I'm right on the boulevard, and there's been a few crazy incidences. I'm trying not to leave the place. However, sunlight is incredibly good for you. And it's because of this that I now have done the research to find out that you don't get vitamin D through the window.
Nope.
You gotta be in it. So I was like, I had my chair all lined up for when the sun came in. And I was just hanging out, but that doesn't do it. There has been a few incidences when I've been out. Obviously, it's very ominous here.
I bet. I've got a couple buddies out in Hollywood, LA area. Andy's one of them, and he's talked a little bit about just like, it's weird out here right now.
Yeah, and it's weird. And so I equated it. I don't know if you saw this tweet, but I said that, at least for myself, because my life has changed and I'm in the thick of the city here,
mm-hmm.
that living through this, living with COVID-19 is like living with a psychopathic lover. And
I remember this tweet.
So let me explain this a little bit. So it's the idea that one day you wake up to realize that your girlfriend, boyfriend, your lover is psychopathic, that the world that you've been in with them is all a lie. but yet you can't escape.
Nope, you're trapped.
And so in this relationship, you would leave, but maybe you have children, or maybe there's too much interwoven bank accounts and things. So you're trying to untangle all this stuff, but you can't allow them to know that you know. And that you have to just go on about your normal life as if everything is normal, but you know it's not. Right in the back of your brain, you're like, it's not normal.
Nope. And I got to keep the front up because otherwise she's going to find out. And I'm, yep.
And that's the thing where you have to keep up some semblance of normalcy in order to keep your wits about you and your focus. And which brings us to this whole point of keeping your routine, setting your alarm. If you went to the gym, working out at home, body weight exercises, or finding whatever you can to have that piece. And then, of course, how many people have seen this as an opportunity for growth? Like I'm talking to you now because as soon as this happened, I was able to transition everything I've been wanting to do for Art of Charm right into it.
Right.
And we were already making this transition. So the setup and doing more lives, this is something that I've been wanting to do. And I'm really excited about this opportunity. And the whole world is on pause for this month, right?
Yes.
But for a lot of people, their worlds have been turned upside down. And obviously with the stress of money or their work being taken from them for this amount of time.
Right.
And then it's like, well, if you weren't already working from home and had those options or had these hobbies and these things that you were doing, then it's very easy to just be like, well, I guess I will surf Netflix today. And if I'm surfing Netflix today, why even bother to get up? And
I'll just do the stuff I'm already used to doing at home, which is just unwinding from all the other stuff that you would be doing to be productive. Yeah,
exactly. But the thing is, we just got told on Sunday that this is another month. Mm-hmm. And I don't know about for anybody else, but I've basically been in lockdown for 3 weeks. The minute I saw them shut down that basketball game, I knew it was over.
Yep.
Because this is America and we love our sports and nothing gets in the way of the sports. And if there was any way that they could have had that game, they would have done it.
Yep.
So when they pulled that, when that stadium was filled, I was like, we are screwed.
Yep, that's it. That's like, game over.
Down, go to the store the next day because this is going down.
Yep.
So it was at that moment that I knew. Now that was 3 weeks ago.
Man, it feels so much longer than that.
Yes. And tell me about it. It's like the days are blending together. Mm-hmm. You don't really know. And for me, my direct answer to that was more of everything, more discipline, more workout, more focus.
Right.
However, I was only able to keep that up for a few weeks. It was good for a while.
Yeah.
But I had to loosen up on some of those things. But that was my direct response. Now, I'm into self-development. And so the minute I saw things change, it was that emotional self-development reflex kicked in. Reframe. How do you build don't let a good crisis go
right.
away.
Yes. How do you pivot this? How do you leverage it to something that's better as opposed to just panic and I'm just going to hunker down and try and survive this thing?
Well, and here's the thing, and I'm going to pass it over to you, which is, I think for a lot of people, they were trying to go about their normal life, but this is not a sprint situation. Mm-mm. This is a marathon. We got 4 weeks, and that's a wait and see 4 weeks.
Right. Yeah, just because they said a month now doesn't mean it's guaranteed to be over in a month. Yeah. No, I'm right there with you where the initial response was very much okay, now's the time to go hard. Now's the time to really get into this. Now's the time to really focus. And even from a business perspective, I was looking at it as, and I'm biased because the majority of the people that I'm in, that are in my neighborhood that I'm friends with and everything, are guys who work in the tech space. And so they're still working, they're still making money, albeit doing it from home. And so there's not this financial crisis, at least amongst my peers, that a lot of other people sadly are really experiencing. And so for me in my head, I'm thinking, okay, this is good because all of a sudden there's more time and more opportunity money's still going to be relatively good. And so maybe there's some business stuff here. And I certainly want to be able to go even harder. And then you're right, that initial motivation, that initial emotional response, just like with anything else we try and do purely based off of motivation or emotion, you lose steam on it. And then that's where the discipline has to start to kick in. And I think that that is the power of establishing routines. And what's so hard about this right now is that people don't have routines at home, or if they do, they're not conducive to the new activities that people are doing at home. We may have a bedtime routine or a morning kind of I'm getting ready ritual or stuff like that. But if you're not participating in the full experience of now I'm going out and I'm going to grab my coffee and I'm going to go to work, or I'm going to go out on this date or whatever else, then everything all of a sudden starts to just feel like it's a 3-day weekend, and your routine is very different at that point. And so many people are struggling with this adjustment of I can't deal with the emotional and the motivational push of the sprint. And I know that it's a trap and it's hell if I do 6 weeks or 10 weeks or however long it is of treating this like it's Labor Day weekend. And so what's the go between to be able to make this work in the long term?
Yeah. So what do you have for the folks whose lives have been turned upside down and they realize, oh, this is going to be a lot longer than I thought it was? Where should they start? What do you have recommendations for them?
So the two things that I've found in the past, especially like I said, I had to make this adjustment 3 years ago as I went in to work for myself. The two things that I found that make it really much more easy to kind of keep and establish routines are they're basically placebos. You know, they shouldn't have the effect that they do, but they do because of the mental association we have with them. And one of them is one that we've already alluded to a little bit, which is get dressed.
Yeah.
Go through this ritual of I'm not just going to be in my pajamas. I'm not just going to be in my weekend clothes. Put on the same thing that you would be wearing if you were going into work. Yeah, you can ditch the shoes or something else like that. You don't have to get suited up or whatever, but your clothing, and this is the reason why, you know, I sent this out in an email to my guys today. This is the reason why sports teams have jerseys and mascots and everything else. This is why religions have ritualistic clothing. This is why you wear a cap and gown when you graduate. This is why businesses have dress codes, is because when we put on this clothing, it affects our mindset. And if you want to be able to be productive and maintain that productivity and maintain that sense of normalcy, then the first thing that you can do and the easiest thing that you have control over is dress like you still are going to be being productive, because that's a way of you're hacking your brain and you're tricking yourself into, yeah, I'm still productive. This is still normal, even though consciously you understand that that's not the case. The second thing is, if you can do this, and I get that this is not feasible for everybody, but even to the extent, the most minor extent that you can, is have some sort of a separate space to be able to do the things that you do. So whether it's working in an office or just exercising in a certain part of the garage or something else, but when you cross that threshold and you're also wearing the clothing that's appropriate for the activity that you're doing, then those two work really synergistically, and it becomes much easier to be able to get in the mindset and maintain the focus and rely on the discipline and the inertia and everything else that you've established to operate it close to normal as you possibly can, as opposed to having all this inertia that's working against you of Netflix is 10 feet away. It's right there, you know? And so the more you can hack and the more things you can set up and establish in your favor, then the easier it's going to be able to maintain that discipline, that normalcy, and maintain that self-development as we go through all this.
I love all that. And what I'm going to add to that is micro steps. So if your world has been turned upside down and this is all brand new to you, this is a hack that Kevin Cruz had given me in his book. I'll promote that because it's a killer book. Great Leaders Have No Rules, Kevin Cruz, and he's the Art of Charm podcast this week, so check it out.
Nice.
He recommends dividing your day into 3 pieces, the 3 C's. So for him, he's the most creative in the morning, same as myself. So it's the 3 C's are going to be create in the morning, collaborate in the afternoon, connect in the evening. So how this works is you do all of your work, all of your reading, any of your deep work of stuff that you know you have to do. You do that in the morning when you have that most energy. And then your afternoons is for any collaborations, any meetings that you might have. And then in the evening, your connection. So you tap into your friends, family, and make sure that you put time out for that. And then what you do in those three places is, rather having a to-do list, here's what I got to knock off on my creative time, you schedule that in. And if this is new to you, schedule in that you're going to read that book an hour. And if an hour sounds too much, then you're going to focus a half an hour on it.
Yeah.
You focus a half an hour on that book and it's good, you won't put it down. You'll just keep going.
Right.
But just do it. Plan your day badly, but plan it.
Yes.
And you will find that you'll slowly start getting things done. And when you slowly start getting things done, you'll only want to get after it more so that next day.
Especially because there's something that's so, and most people aren't aware of this because we have other people who plan our days for us, right? Your boss sets your schedule, or the hours of the operation set the schedule, or something else. And they don't realize how addictive it is to, one, be able to set your own and control it. And then two, how much stronger the sense of accomplishment is that comes when you're able to check things off your list, or you're able to get things done based on the fact that you were the one who decided you wanted to get it done, as opposed to somebody else determining that for you. And so it becomes this really powerful thing that, yeah, I read that book and I implemented those things, or I connected with these people, or I created that content, or I banged out that proposal, or I created that new product, or whatever it is, because I did it, as opposed to because my boss was breathing down my neck, or because my clients were hounding me on it, or whatever else it may be.
And I want to add to that as well. For the people whose, let's just say your jobs are on hold, or you don't even realize if you're going back to a job. I feel for you. That is incredibly,
it's got to suck
situation to be in right now, but you're stuck regardless. So what are you going to do about it? And right now, while the whole world is on pause, take this month to learn social media. If you can learn Instagram or Twitter, and then you'll be able to learn how to create content, promote that content, and then sell that content. And find an experience that you could write about. And the thing about it is, don't focus on anything of the end of selling it and how much money you can make. Right now, spend your time an hour a day learning one of these new skills, whether it's copywriting, social media, writing a book, writing memoirs, going live on YouTube, whatever it is. Just spend the time doing that. In 4 weeks, if we're out of this, you will have a skill that you'll be able to use in some way, some measure, moving forward.
Yep.
And so regardless of the not knowing, which is the worst part of all of this, can't focus on that. Focus on creating certainty from uncertainty, and use creating routines and skill building as an opportunity for you to wake up every day knowing what you're going to be doing.
Yeah.
That'll settle you down just enough to focus, to learn something, and to get excited for each and every day. Because without that, this is going to get very depressing.
Yeah. You can only binge watch your favorite show so many times. And there's even something to be said for, maybe you don't go anywhere with it from a social media perspective. It doesn't mean that all of a sudden everybody now is coming out of this as a coach or an influencer or whatever else. But I can tell you that those same skills that you'll develop will be just as applicable in a retail environment, or an office environment, or a restaurant environment, or whatever else it is that you end up doing after things start to settle. The ability to connect with people, the ability to present yourself well, the ability to be persuasive, all of those things are completely domain independent. You need those skill sets irrespective of whatever industry it is that you find yourself, or where on the hierarchy of that industry you find yourself.
Without a doubt. And there's plenty of resources for all this stuff. I know in even our Twitter silo, there's plenty of folks who are selling money Twitter mastery books, and that crush it. And in fact, I believe you are certainly friends with some of those folks. Perhaps you can even recommend a resource that you liked. But, you know, and to thank you, you were the one that got me on Twitter.
Yes.
and it has been a blast. And we've had this account collecting dust for a very long time.
Mm-hmm.
And I just took at it because I had time on the holidays and wanted to have some fun. And I just jumped into the silo you were in because I knew you. And you're like, anytime you know. And I remember it was cranking out one day. I was like writing all this long thing. You're like, that should be a thread.
I forgot about that.
I was like, oh, okay. But it was, and it's an easy thing to pick up, but it teaches you copy.
Mm-hmm.
And it also teaches you how to write to an emotional point that vibes with people. And that's when the tweets start to get shared. And once you understand how that works, you have learned a piece of psychology that marketing teaches and copywriting teaches that is applicable for moving forward in all of these online virtual platforms.
Yep. And everything else. I use the skills that I've learned from Twitter and from building my business as a dad, you know, like it's applicable everywhere. Yeah.
It's interesting. Once you see how writing in that manner affects people, then you just start doing it regularly.
Yep.
It's crazy. And then you start seeing everything through the lens of a tweet.
Yes.
Another thing I'll be talking about tomorrow is for the people who are like, well, I'm not creative. Once you just start giving that platform or that skill some time, your brain will naturally just start thinking in that manner.
Absolutely.
And you'll start getting good at it. And you'll start to be a witty writer. I never thought of myself as a witty writer either, but it's fun. It's
a perfect platform for it because it just forces you the character limit, the attention span, the volume of tweets that are expected to be able to grow an account. You don't have, it's very much sink or swim, and it's a fun place to be.
All right. So people, you should all give it a shot and build some routine. We'll be out of this before you know it, but it is going to be some time. It's going to be a stretch. And without creating certainty from uncertainty, you run the risk of depression, stress, and getting sick. And your health is the best thing that you can do for yourself and your loved ones in this time.
Yep.
So let's focus on that. Now, the other reason I wanted to chat with you today, Tanner, is you also run a men's style company. I know many guys who said that they had learned to dress from you, and there are the guys who think I don't need something like that. There are the guys who think I dress amazingly. And as two fashion conscious people, we know that's not true. There's
right.
What are you doing out there? But you and I come from completely different places. But yet when it comes to expression and authenticity and communicating your values, we agree on the same in the same group that we overlap.
Yeah, however, the principles are the same. It's just the manifestation of those principles that are different.
And for me, I would love for the people who watch this to get an idea of some tricks and tips that they can use to individualize themselves, to set themselves apart from the pack, but yet in a contemporary manner where you get noticed, but you're not so far off the reservation that now you've gotten everyone's attention and it's not the attention you want.
Right.
But also and feel good about yourself.
Right.
Express yourself in that manner, because when you feel great, your physical presentation changes and then your work output changes.
Yep.
So that's I would love to dive in, and I guess we could start and let me throw this to you.
Okay.
You have these 3 archetypes.
Yes.
And maybe that's a good place to start with this.
Sure. Yeah. Because what this is these archetypes this is basically the way that I teach this, because most guys, sadly, when they think about fashion or style or appearance or anything else, they have a few kind of false perceptions that we have to break down first in order to be able to teach them the right way to do it, which is obviously the same thing that you and AJ do when it comes to social skills and stuff like that. So much of the time is just breaking down bad habits and bad perceptions before you can teach guys the right way to do stuff, right?
Absolutely.
And a lot of guys think that in order to be able to dress well, I have to dress more formally. You know, I need to be more dressed up. I should be wearing a button up instead of a t-shirt. I should have a suit on or something else. Or I need to embrace more color or more pattern or whatever else it may be. And the problem is you're looking at one set of tactics as opposed to the entire scheme and the entire layout of what it is that you're actually trying to accomplish. And what most people also fail to realize is that really, really good style, the men who dress the best, are not the ones who are able to take everything that they see in GQ or on Our Male Fashion Advice on Reddit or on something else like that, and then just perfectly copy it and incorporate it. But it's guys who are able to take who they are internally, this very complicated and convoluted and nuanced, and you've got aspirations and contradictions and all these other things. And then how do you accurately express that externally in a way that somebody can look at you and get a pretty good idea of who you are? And more importantly, when you see your reflection, you look at that and go, yeah, that's the best version of myself. That's who I am, as opposed to, okay, I may look good, but this isn't me at all. This feels totally fake and totally stupid, which ties into one of the reasons why I start off with my guys by teaching them about these style archetypes, because the archetypes are the first manifestation of who you are internally that you can then start to express that externally. And so the three of them are rugged, refined, and rakish. And I'll break these down for you guys.
Yeah.
So rugged guys are men who primarily interact with the world physically. They like to do things with their hands. They like to get dirty. They enjoy the rules of nature, and that's their primary way of getting around. It's blue collar workers. It's this other kind of the workwear guys, this element of it. And so they thrive in that environment, and their clothing should be reflective of that. The refined guys are guys who love the idea of society and hierarchy and organization and everything else. And they're very, very good, or at least they aspirationally want to be very good at playing by the rules. And if they follow the rules and they grease the right palms and they make the right connections, then they can increase their status and rise in the ranks, and they become at the top of the echelon. And there's a way to dress that reflects that. And then the third category, go ahead.
Well, just on that, I think everyone could put together what a rugged archetype would look like. Could you give a couple examples of this other one?
Most of the time when you think about refined, that's where suiting comes in. That's where you think of like bankers and politicians and, even just the CEO at your company, because he's the guy who knew how to follow the rules and that kind of stuff, right? So it's that business casual, that whole business environment, right? Okay, and then number three, this is where you fall in very strongly. This is rakish. These are the guys who they understand all those rules and all that hierarchy just as well as the refined guys. But rather than trying to thrive by following the rules and playing within the system, they maintain their status or build it by existing outside the system, giving it the middle finger, trying to burn it down, laughing at it, doing whatever else they can. And those are the kind of guys who are the rock stars. They are the iconoclasts. They're the rebels. They're the biker gang. They're all this other stuff. And so that's what kind of fits within that rakish. Now, one thing that's important to understand is that is one of 6 steps or 6 components that you need to look at, because one of the things, and you guys may be doing this right now, is thinking, okay, cool. So if I'm primarily rugged, then that means I have to look like a lumberjack. Or if I'm refined, does that mean that Tanner's saying that I have to wear a suit? And no, because there are a lot of different ways to manifest what those archetypes are. But you do need to understand where you fall within them, and even what the combination of all 3 of them is within you, because nobody is entirely rakish or entirely refined or entirely rugged. We have elements of all 3, but the more you understand which is your primary, the more you can start leaning into that aesthetic. And that's where you get what you were talking about, this confidence of, holy cow, not only can I look really good, but I feel like myself and I feel really authentic in what I'm wearing, which makes it look all the better because now there's this synergy of it.
And I think what adds to that, and this is a big part of feeling good, is when now you have the doors open to some ideas for dress But not only are you able to do it for yourself, you're now being able to signal to other people and to be able to find your tribe, which allows you to feel safe. We're
Yes.
all looking to fit in somewhere, and we do that through this presentation, this signaling, which also we'll get into this about how do we represent and express our values through these different archetypes.
Yeah. Well, I love that you brought up tribe, because that's the next component in this. Because let's take your archetype, this primarily Rakish archetype, and for you to be able to dress the way that you do and walk into a 1%er club in the middle of North Dakota and it's a bunch of bikers. Okay. Yeah. You guys are both Rakish, but you're not going to be seeing them as similar. And they're certainly not going to be seeing you where it's like, hey, fellow outcast, or same thing if you were to show up in the middle of Brooklyn and you're going with you're hanging out with a bunch of guys who are really into the streetwear scene or something else, or you're in Southern Florence and it's all the guys who are really rakish, but they're doing it from a menswear and a suiting perspective. All of those different tribes fit within the rakish archetype, but they're all incredibly different. And so you're absolutely right that you need to be able to find who your tribe is and then be able to understand the nuance that exists within that tribe, what those social cues are as far as dressing this way sends this signal and refusing to dress that way sends this other signal. And you and I joke about coming from different angles, but I was very much in the punk rock world when I was, when I was in high school and stuff like that. And it was so funny because I was so desperate to not look like all the preppy kids with their Tommy Hilfiger and their frosted tips and everything else. I wanted to be unique and individual. And so I wanted green Liberty spikes and a battle jacket and bondage pants like everybody else in my tribe. Right. So it's not that individual at all. It's only individual in comparison to somebody who's X tribe. And then it's very much conforming as far as with the other people who are in tribe.
For myself, the rakish thing certainly rolls, and I borrow from a lot of different decades of rock. So there's like a lot of 70s New York punk. There's also a lot of early 70s British glam. So I borrow from all these different places, and one sort of look will have different aesthetics from each of those that make it my own. But then also, if I was to borrow from another archetype, it would be the refined look for if AJ and I are going out for like if we're going to NBC to talk to somebody about a show or so the rock and roll guy, he's going, but I will tone it down and
you'll refine it up a bit.
Of course. And feel really good about grabbing at certain areas because that sense is put together. And I love that you brought this up, because for a guy, let's say, who has, let's use a stereotypical scenario. The guy who never really paid much attention to a lot of these things, grew up in a single parent home, maybe played a lot of video games, maybe ate a lot of junk food, and gets into his 20s, starts to look around and realizes that he wasted a lot of time and starts to get disciplined, starts to care about where his life's going and the choices that he's making. And he begins to start putting it together. Dress is certainly going to be a very scary thing for that guy, because now you're dealing with aesthetics and you have a new body that is going with this. And I know from dealing with a lot of guys that I worked with, that goes two ways. If you were really big and you lost weight and you look in the mirror, you still see the big guy.
Yeah.
And it goes the other way. If you were always really skinny and you look and now you put on some weight, you got some muscles, you still see the skinny guy.
I'm still the skinny guy. Yep, absolutely.
And so either one. So let's go there, because that's going to be an easy win here for that guy. And we all see, when all men begin to develop and they decide to take ownership of their lives and the decisions they're making, and this begins a whole new world of choices that they have to make. So could you give them a hint of how they could find maybe that archetype to at least get them started in the right direction?
Yeah. And that's okay. So really, if you want to find the archetype, this is where I do the shameless plug and say, go to masculine-style.com and take my quiz, because there's a 7-question quiz that you can take that will
Yeah.
help you figure out what that archetype is. And that's such a good way to get started. But to the point that you're talking about this internal identity of, I'm still the fat guy, or I'm still the skinny guy, and how do I make these changes? This is one of the reasons why dressing better is so powerful. And when I say better, I don't mean more formally. I don't mean put on a suit. I mean dressing in a way that's more expressive, it's more individual, and it's more congruent. Because if you're still wearing the same clothes that you used to, when you see yourself in the mirror, you're still getting 50% ish of that same identity that you used to have. And so you're dealing with this trap of, have I really changed that much? I mean, yeah, I look better without my shirt on, but I don't look that much different. Am I faking it or all this? But if you totally change all this around and do it in a way that's even more congruent and more authentic, because most guys, when they dress poorly, it's just because they talk about that it's comfortable, and it's never that it's physically comfortable. That's what they hide behind. It's the comfort of low expectations, right?
Yeah.
It's that nobody else can expect anything of me. I don't have to expect anything of myself. But as you start to develop the self-discipline, as you start to make these changes, as you start to give yourself permission to have expectations and develop some confidence and some competence and everything else, and then you dress in a way that reflects that, then not only when you see yourself in the mirror, do you actually see your better physique because you're dressing in a way that's more complementary to that, but then you've also completely rid yourself of any semblance of what that old person was, except for the things that you still want to hold on to, but you're no longer trapped by the old version of you. You get to maintain that or get rid of it as much as you want to, because your clothing is something that can help make that transformation even more potent than it would be on its own.
Right on. I love that. That's great. It was funny. I had recently got together with Alexander Cortez before he headed off.
Yeah.
He was saying that you were the guy that helped him with his dress.
Yeah. Yeah. I had a lot of fun working with Alexander, because he was one of those where, in fact, it took a lot of time. And honestly, the vast majority of my time on Twitter is spent trying to convince guys that they even are allowed to want my product, let alone the fact that I'm the one that should give it to them or anything else like that, which is where the whole real men don't care how they look thing comes from.
That's a
But
great tag.
Alexander, yeah, to give you guys a quick rundown on that, basically, because a lot of guys will say this, and I get so many emotional responses from men where it's like, well, I'm a real man doesn't care. He doesn't put any effort into it or anything.
I can't believe how much you get attacked over this. And it's like, if you're getting attacked over this, obviously you're hitting a sensitive area.
Exactly. You are responding emotionally, which means you care. But what I do is I pull up different photos, and I do this both on Twitter and on Instagram, is I find photos or paintings or things like that from different men in different cultures throughout all different points in history. 90% of the time, it's the warrior class, the most masculine of all men. And I post up these things to demonstrate just how much these men cared about their appearance.
Yeah.
So much. Because it signals things like mastery or courage or strength or honor or all these other very masculine virtues. And you had to earn the right to wear this clothing. And there was so much symbolism and power and status and everything else that was imbued in it. And these men absolutely cared about why they dressed the way that they did. And so Alexander was one of those that it took him a little bit of time to get there. He was very much, no, I wear a wife beater and my baggy sweatpants. But you slowly start to work on him, and now he's doing really well. And it's really fun to see how much it affects him, he was already a very confident man, but to see even more of that congruence with him, where it's like, no, I can't believe I wasted so much time. It's the best comparison I heard to this is from Antonio Centeno, who's, is a mutual friend for us. He said, it's like driving a Ferrari, but all your tires are flat, where it doesn't matter how much power the engine has, you're not really able to get it to its full potential. And that's what bad style is it doesn't matter how awesome everything else is on the inside if you're handicapping yourself because you've got the flat tires, because your style sucks.
Yeah. And it doesn't take much. And once the doors open up, and then there's a whole new world there that you get to experience, and powers that you didn't know you had. And it was funny. because Alexander and I's conversation was just about self-development and discipline and all these things. And he didn't have anything but utter glowing things to say about how that changed the way he looked at himself and how much more confidence it had gave him to put himself out there. And that guy, his avatar and his shtick on Twitter is obviously one of like the most masculine, toughest dudes on the planet of get over it and get in the gym. And now, and even he had nothing but glowing things to say about that. And so, even for myself to say it, people are like, oh yeah, but you're this rock and roll guy.
Right. Of course it matters to you. Yeah.
But even for somebody like Alexander, so it's definitely worth a visit to your site. You can give that to him again and take that quiz and learn about those things. And then, I guess, was there anything else that I wanted to talk, or did you have anything? Or, we could end this with seeing if there's any questions on YouTube.
Yeah, let's see what the guys have to say. If there's any questions we can answer.
My iPad had died on me. If you want to go over to YouTube. And
yes, let me pull that up. Hold on.
And then I hadn't got anything in Periscope, but the problem with this is I'm have this bizarre setup and I'm still figuring that out myself.
Right. And that's one of the things that you and I were talking about before we even got started on the call, was one of the advantages, and you and I are experiencing this right now. One of the advantages of the situation being the way that it is right now is that everybody now has more permission to just experiment with stuff. Like, this is not polished for either one of us at all. You're totally learning how to do this. In a lot of ways, it's more raw, it's more visceral. And that's what's kind of fun, is not everything has to be professional level quality. We're just kind of figuring it out as we're going.
Here's something, since you had the punk rock background, that you're going to love. And I view self-development and a lot of this technology in a very punk rock Ramones sort of way, which is, listen, we're not the greatest band. In fact, we don't even really know how to play our instruments, but we can do that while we're on stage. We can get better every time that we play. And so for me to learn with this technology, to jump on Twitter, to do some of the things, to get in front of people and do a talk, to me, it's like, you know how much better I'm going to be after I just go up there and hack my way through this?
Right.
So it's always a win. And so I've always seen this stuff in a very punk rock fashion. And that has always been my approach with it.
Well, I think that's one of the reasons why you're so successful with it, is because it's not this. Have you read the book Alchemy by Rory Sutherland?
I don't think so.
Dude, you need to read that book, because he talks about just how powerful it is to act as opposed to just waiting for a perfect plan, and how rationalization is not. The best way he puts it is, most people think that the rational part of their brain is the CEO, it's the executive that's making the decisions, but it's not. It's the PR department. It's the thing that's justifying the decisions you intuitively make to everybody else. And that's one of the things that he talks about, is how important it is and how successful people are that are willing to just say, I'm just going to try stuff. And if it doesn't work, then we're going to adapt and we're going to pivot and we're going to change from there. Or if it does, then we're going to double down until it doesn't. And then we're going to change. And a lot of guys, we can even tie that into style, where, you want to be able to do it intelligently. You want to have some level of understanding of the way things go. But you have to be willing to just experiment, whether that's building social media, whether that's getting in the gym, whether that's developing your style, whether that's dating or marriage or fatherhood or whatever else. Like, you're never ready for any of it. You just gotta jump in with both feet and then be willing to adapt.
And I think I'll add to that. I think for a lot of people that naturally comes with age, but the sooner you can get there, the more fun and success you're going to have in life.
Agreed. Okay, well, I don't know if I'm looking at YouTube wrong, but I'm not seeing anything on there as far as questions or comments. So, okay. Yeah.
Well, listen, thank you very much. This has been a blast. We'll have to do it again sometime. And we've been talking about this for a long time, so I'm glad we were able to make it happen.
Finally. So thank you for having me on. Thank you for making it happen. And I will see you on Twitter.
Every day.
Every day.
Thank you all for tuning in, and cheers, buddy.
See you guys.